for the invitation, and thank you very much, everyone, for coming here and spending part of your afternoon with me. I'm sorry that we are not in person. The weather didn't look good earlier today. So as Peter mentioned, this is not going to be a technical talk. I will give some examples of some of the research that is happening within my group and within this training program towards the end, but this is more about the CREATE training program and an invitation for you to see if you can see yourself fitting in some form in this CREATE, and if you have interest and answering your questions or being here in case you wanted to approach us to become part of this program in some capacity, both faculty and students. Of course, pathology has been an important collaborator and really a second home to me since I've joined Queen's. Many of the names here, students and faculty alike, have been either short-term in the case of students, or very long-term collaborators and good colleagues. In fact, one of the first invited talks I had to give, and one of the first people I got to know was Peter, back when I joined Queen's. So I'm very happy to be back here and grateful to the opportunities that the Department of Pathology has afforded me really to grow my research program here. It's wonderful to be part of their team. So the CREATE program is a training program for building the workforce for Canada's future. When I say workforce, that is the exact quotation from the training program definition. CIHR has a similar training program. This one is specific to NSERC, so the Natural Sciences and Engineering Council of Canada. And the idea here is that they are not necessarily interested in building this training program for training of faculty members. So people who really want to become very specialized academically and end up as faculty members, this may not be the kind of training, although I cannot see why you wouldn't be part of this and not end up being an academic, but this is the purpose of the program. The program was funded about a few months more than 2 years ago at Queen's. It's a very competitive program. Every year, less than a handful of CREATE grants are awarded across Canada. And the challenge with them is that you have to be unique across all the existing CREATE programs in Canada before you. So every new program that is funded has to be unique in a certain way. So this one had its own unique elements: digital health, and of course, AI and machine learning applied to health. The program is, I direct the program, so I am one of 11 PIs. I'm the main PI, but there are 10 other people in addition to me. It is mainly hosted in the School of Computing, but it is a multi-university and multi-department program. In our department, for those of you who don't know, of course, I'm hosting the CREATE training program in Medical Informatics, but we also have a professional master's and diploma in Medical Informatics that is targeted for life science and health science and biology students who would like to reskill in computing. And in fact, several of the students every year in the CREATE program belong to students who come out of that degree. Just some snapshots of students and activities we have done within CREATE within our labs. My lab is in Goodwin Hall, so I'm right up the street from Arch Street and on the 7th floor, and I share lots of space and students also with other colleagues, including Gabor Fichtinger at the PERC lab. As I mentioned, the CREATE is a multi-PI program. So these are the PIs of the CREATE program. So you'll see a lot of names here that and pictures that you may recognize. Some of them are at Queen's, others are really leaders in digital health and computer-assisted interventions in the world. that we were lucky to be able to bring together. On the top row, you'll probably recognize some of the names of professors at Queens who have long collaborated with life sciences and health sciences. And then amongst those people, we also have Aaron Fenster. He's a professor at Western and Robarts Research Institute. He was part of this, and he's one of the pioneers of this area in the world. So the program was built, we designed the program to follow, for those of you who are in medical school, competency-based training attributes. So very similar to how competency-based training attributes are defined in that program, we decided to formulate this very much after that. And each of these competency-based attributes in the context of our training are important to it. So this training really comes on top of your academic degree and your academic training. So it does not change your academic training, but it complements it. It complements it by enforcing these requirements. So some of these, some of you may actually have designed for yourself such a program that you worked very hard to bring in these elements, but within this program, it's formalized and it's a requirement. So it puts both you and your supervisors or you and your students on the right track to have all of this. So there is knowledge-based scholarship, which is really the main thing that we do in our training. Innovation with impact in health, which is the focus of your knowledge-based scholarship. Interdisciplinary collaboration, and that sometimes happens and sometimes doesn't. So this one enforces it. Experiential learning, so allowing people a formal mechanism of gaining experience outside of their degree. Professional skills and communications, and EDII awareness and promotion. There is an external program committee that oversees the work of the PIs and the students, and the external committee has 3 tracks. We have an industry track, so we have people from industry, internationally and internally. So Harriet Feilater sits on this committee from Queens, and we have another international member. From the government, we have people that are really leading both the provincial and national institutes that are heavily involved in digital health. And from Queens, we have originally members of CTL, so our Center for Teaching and Learning, the Dean of Health Sciences or one of her representatives usually, and also graduate students. As I mentioned, our competency-based attributes really focus on 5 elements: the technical skills, professional skills, mobility, and multifaceted training. I'll talk just briefly about what these are and how they add to your normal training program. So your technical skills training is really what, as PhD and master students, all of you specialize in. And so there's specialized courses that you have to take for your degrees. It's tailored to your background and the need of your thesis. This does not change within the context of CREATE. So you still take what you need to graduate and to learn what you have to learn for your thesis. In addition to that, we complement that with other things. So we have a datathon. It's a simulation event. Every year it changes, and we bring in, within a very short time frame, students from all backgrounds. In fact, you don't have to be necessarily an AI person to be part of this. We simulate an event, so the event is related, or the question is very much related to what we do in health. And then the students together in groups come up with solutions. And it's a competition, so there's ranking. There are people who are guiding you in terms of implementation. There are people who are providing the hardware required for coding and solving the problem. And all students are part of this. In fact, we open this to students outside of CREATE as well, because the more students there are, the richer the experience becomes for those who are involved. It's only required once per degree program, but so far all of our students who have been around have actually taken part in the 2 that we have scheduled. This happens every spring. We have an annual retreat. It happens with a local imaging conference. That's Imaging Network Ontario. In March this year, it's in Toronto. So this is where we come together because we have the partner institute at Robarts and Western. It is easier for two of us to be at a local meeting where students and faculty will attend normally, or most of them will attend. So we go there. Last year, we had 4 faculty members from the PIs and almost all of our CREATE students, so 4 or 5 faculty members and all of our CREATE students there. This year, it's going to happen in Toronto again around the same dates in March. And what we have done this year, which some of you might find interesting, is that we are joining forces with another CREATE program in Toronto. They are a CREATE program on responsible AI. And together, we are going to be putting the program and actually running this for the whole conference, a debate on the role of AI medicine. So in medicine. So we have just sent out a call for proposals for the questions of the debate, as well as a call for students who want to be either on the debate, part of the debate teams, or if they are very experienced, to coach some of the students on the debate team. So again, if you're interested in this, you may want to let me know or approach us. Again, your technical skills training continues with an interdisciplinary module. So the interdisciplinary module is a collection of lectures through sources that offer these lectures. These are regular lectures that are organized internationally, but they're mostly online. And then within the conferences that most of the CREATE PI's students will attend, there's an opportunity to collect these interdisciplinary module elements. The common courses, because it's very difficult to have one common course that includes students from computing and perhaps the BMS, pathology, and engineering, we have made this flexible to include, usually every department has a requirement for a research skills course, to include that course plus other lectures that we provide to complement it. A key part of the CREATE is actually formally requiring mobility for the trainees. So you have experiential learning. So the experiential learning is either in form of internships with companies that are partners with us on this CREATE, with institutions that are partners with us in CREATE, or somewhere that you find, perhaps a hospital, a health center that you find. So it happens once per degree, or it requires a mini project. So a mini project is in addition to what you do during your thesis, you also carve out a smaller project with a group that might be tangentially related or something interesting that could feed in your thesis, but is independent of your thesis. Most importantly, the person that is supervising you and mentoring you is a different person. The purpose is, first, it allows you to add another skill, perhaps another knowledge block to your background. It allows you to make networks. That's the most important thing, with new people. Then that would lend itself to better both learning opportunities and future work opportunities. If you're around for a long time, so if you're around for a PhD, you may choose to do both of these things. And this is very popular for students to, in the past 2 years, to have done, in fact, both of these. The professional skills training is, again, you might do these things if you have a lot of drive and you have organized your thesis and you're learning around this, or you might have implemented all of this in your labs as faculty members, but the program makes it essentially part of the training of the students, and we provide links to these. These are not something that we offer ourselves because we don't really have a lot of expertise in any of these. These are through other institutions or within Queens through various entities that have expertise in offering these. And through common courses, conferences, and so forth, you learn professional skills training in terms of communications as well. So communication really reflects itself as it would in your training in various elements of the CREATE. Something that is very interesting, and students have quite enjoyed this, is that we allow undergraduate mentorship for graduate students. So we have turned this into a few things just within this multifaceted training. So what we do is every fall, every winter, so just within a few weeks, we are going to have a call for graduate students to put in a short grant. They are writing a grant to fund them to have a summer undergraduate student mentee. So the students essentially are doing multiple things. They are starting to write their own grant. So they're thinking about what would the purpose of this grant be. They're starting to think about what is important in training an undergraduate student or any mentee. So what are the skills they want to teach them? They're going into a competition. And in fact, we let the students actually rank and review these themselves. So they write, they rank and review. We do not use their ranking and reviewing for selection. The selection happens with our committee at the end, because sometimes we may have just too few students to do this, and there will be a lot of conflicts of interest. But they sit around a round table, and we run a very similar grant review committee as CIHR would, and they rank their own grants that they have written. So every year we have between 2 and 4 undergraduate students that are mentored by our trainees. Some of the pictures of the trainees, you may recognize these. The trainees are across a number of departments. So we have trainees that are co-supervised within pathology, trainees that are co-supervised within DBMS, computing, engineering. So there's a lot of different departments and create. Some of the graduated, we are very new, of course, so we don't have a lot of students who have graduated, but we have students who have gone on to other degrees. We have students who are data scientists. We have students who are in engineering positions and so forth. So everyone is gainfully employed, hopefully happily. This is a distribution of students per department. So a lot of the students are in computing as it's expected, but you can see that there are students in medical biophysics, they're in DBMS, in engineering, in medicine. We have MD PhD students within this program. We have 2 MD PhD students that are part of this program as well. So this was the annual summer competition that I just mentioned in our multifaceted training. These are just some of the examples of, for instance, in 2023, I included what did we do within Create. So this is our annual retreat. We had panel sessions during our annual retreat. We had Siemens run a health challenge. Students presented their pitches, and we had 2 of our students win pitch presentation awards. Just this summer, we had a faculty member from Hopkins that on medical robotics that visited us. We had a workshop that was delivered actually from the ground on sustainable development on prosthetics and orthotics in central Mexico. So Tim Bryant, a faculty member in the mechanical engineering, runs a program, and he was visiting central Mexico, and he was visiting some of these local clinics that he works with, and they were generous with their time that they actually ran a workshop right from the clinic. We saw some of the interactions with patients, fitting of the orthotics, and some of the challenges that they have there. This is another event that we had last year. We had a Bruce visiting scholar. So this is a scholar that is supported by Dr. Bruce's generous funding, a world leader in some topic that visits departments of urology and surgery every year. And this year it was an expert in computer-aided medical procedures, Dr. Nawab from Technical University of Munich, that visited us. And we had a whole day of Create events specifically led by Create students. This is just a snapshot of our annual datathon. So I mentioned the details of the datathon, but we had 5 groups, all trainees. We had near 10 staff members and senior students that worked as mentors for this and supported the hardware. And I think overall it was a very good experience. And as I said, we took all the students with all backgrounds for this. Just to wrap this up, some of the research topics, I thought I include some of the research topics of the students that are in the CREATE program. Naturally, these are going to be research topics that are specific to my lab, because I only have slides from my own students and my lab. But it gives you a sense of the extent of some of these research topics, and how specific you need to be in areas, or how really widely distributed the interests and expertise of the students and faculty members who supervise them are. So one of the bigger projects that we run is robotic assisted surgery. This is an example of, it's meant to be a snapshot of lumpectomies. And the idea is to be able to do cavity scanning post-lumpectomy, so after resection of cancer, to ensure that there's no cancer left behind. The robotic element comes into play because it allows, for instance, visualization of the cavity using lasers and photoacoustic imaging, so very specific ultrasound aspects. The robot is not autonomous, so this is meant to be really more cooperative robotics, in that the surgeon and the robot work together. The robot has other potential applications. For instance, if the margins of the tumor were somehow determined preoperatively and there was some form of certainty associated with it, this margins could be overlaid onto the coordinates of the patient during the surgery, and you can actually allow the robot to enforce haptics and not let the surgeon push against the boundaries of the tumor. So you could have some sort of haptic interaction between the cautery device and the surgeon holding the cautery device cooperatively with the robot. Some of these ideas are at research level, others are closer to deployment, and some of them are in fact in the OR and are being experimented. So this is a project that Laura Connolly is leading. She's a PhD student. She was previously a master's student in CREATE. She upgraded to PhD, and it is a collaborative project with surgery, our department, we have pathology in here, and also Johns Hopkins. So she did her experiential learning at Hopkins in the summer, and she's hoping to repeat this this year as well with another experiential learning opportunity. Another project, very different. It includes a robot again, but a different kind of robot. This is robotic-assisted evaluation of stroke patients or other patients with various other disease. This is with Steve Scott in Center for Neurosciences and DBMS. So student is Farnak, and what she's looking at is analysis of the raw signals of the robot, as well as parameters that are collected by the robot, in trying to be more objective in determining some of the deficits of patients following stroke, perhaps for picking more specialized rehabilitation or other clinical decision-making. Their clinical metrics are very subjective and sometimes just very difficult for patients to get through, and it may not reflect the true nature of their deficits and their needs. Farnak has worked with Dr. Scott, and she has to think about if she wants to do an experiential learning. But what she has done as part of her PhD so far in the experiential learning part of CREATE is that she has worked on a mini project. She worked with our surgeons and another team on a completely different project about a year and a few months ago, and completed a manuscript based on that. So that's what she chose to do. We have a large group, a number of students, 4 students in CREATE that are working on the extension of the surgical margin evaluation that I just mentioned with the robot, but this time looking at mass spectrometry information. So in real time, breathing, taking in, suctioning the smoke that is created by the cautery device during surgery and looking at the spread of the ions using mass spectrometry and having some machine learning in there for real-time detection of perhaps cancer. So this would be useful if, again, there was, for instance, you were looking in the cavity and doing point burns with your cautery device to see if there are any, if there is any cancer left behind, or that during surgery, essentially you didn't have a good sense of the boundaries of the tumor and you were inadvertently cutting into and burning in the tumor. Other projects, again, this is multiple students, not just a single student, are working on ultrasound-based cancer detection. This is in particular with prostate cancer. So prostate cancer is guided, the biopsies for prostate cancer detection are guided by ultrasound, but ultrasound is not a diagnostic device or diagnostic technology for prostate cancer. Ideally, you would want the ultrasound to also have diagnostic information, so biopsies could be specifically guided to take samples from highly suspicious lesions. Right now, MRI does this, but MRI is not intraoperative. So preoperatively, pre-procedure, there would be an MRI, perhaps 1 or 2 targets would be selected by MRI, but intra-procedure, you have to have an ultrasound to guide. So the students are working on various AI and ultrasound innovations to add characteristics of cancer on the ultrasound images in real time. In this particular slide, you see it's from one of our students, Paul Wilson, who's working on high-frequency ultrasound, so ultrasound that has high resolution, not as much penetration, but is showing specificity and higher sensitivity in detecting prostate cancer. So he has, in fact, chosen to spend his experiential learning with the company that builds the ultrasound. That's called Exact Imaging. They happen to be Canadian and they're in Toronto. So Paul spent a summer there. So the way we fund some of these experiential learning programs are partly through CREATE, but mainly we try and work with other funding agencies that exist. For instance, MyTax provides funding to companies. So half the funding, sometimes they have 2-to-1 matching where students can spend their internship at a company. The company pays half of their usual payment, and MyTax, this program will compensate for the remainder of this. So that's how Paul funded his internship at Exact, but that's what he chose for his experiential learning. We have also other programs, other projects, and more of what I call digital pathology. So this is mass spectrometry, but really more mass spectrometry imaging. So DESI is one of the platforms. I saw several of you here who are students with Chris Nicol and his lab who work on this form of data. So idea is to take H&E images and be able to look at the, again, concentration of various ions using mass spectrometry on tissue with higher detection rates for various cells, even at very low concentration of these cells. So this is an imaging problem as far as computer science is concerned, and we have multiple students. These are, in fact, the biomedical informatics students that are working on, for instance, building software to visualize and work with these images, implementing some of the machine learning, really deploying them in software so students and postdoctoral fellows in other labs could easily use these without having to code, and a variety of other projects that are available. So I'll stop there to give you an opportunity to ask any questions. And for you to be involved in Create, there are multiple ways. If you're a faculty member, any student that you want to co-supervise or even co-mentor, it doesn't have to be formal co-supervision, but one of the PIs in Create could qualify and they could apply for Create. The call for the new cohort of students. So we do our intake in September or in August. So that is one way of being involved. If you're a student, you can, of course, speak to your supervisor first in terms of, do you see a benefit and do you see a role in Create? I mean, there's a lot of benefit. The question is, does it fit your timeline right now? If you're already a student, if you're thinking about your next degree, this might be a good opportunity to discuss and see if being part of this formal program helps. Something else that we have done that is very unique to our Create in Canada is, remember that Create is funded by NSERC. So NSERC is the Natural Sciences and Engineering. So that puts a limit in terms of, you know, what kinds of students we can have in the program and what the background of the student. So the training of the student that qualifies for Create has to be in natural sciences and engineering. That doesn't mean computer science alone. So there's a lot of natural sciences that are in life sciences, but it has to fall under NSERC's mandate. But we have been able to work very creatively with the Faculty of Health Sciences and with the Dean's Office. And they have found ways to support our efforts so that, for instance, several of the PIs in Create have students that are fully in DBMS and not in computing and still part of this Create. So they take some of the benefits. They may not get all the funding that Create can support them with, but they will participate at least in some elements that they find beneficial. In other circumstances, we have several faculty members in the Department of Pathology that have either co-mentored or co-supervised students with the rest of the PIs in the Create, and the students are fully under this Create. Whether they are actually hosted in computing or not, doesn't matter because their thesis is captured by the mandate of NSERC. I'll really stop now, and I'm happy to answer your questions, and I hope you found that useful and relevant.
Thank you very much, Parvin. That was very useful and very exciting. And I can see a lot of our students have tuned in today. So I'll bet you a lot of people, their ideas are percolating in their heads of how they might be able to take advantage of a training program like this, and probably a lot of our faculty as well. So I would open it up for questions for Parvin. If you want to use the raise hand function, I'll see your questions and go ahead. And also, while I'm waiting, I noticed that Parvin gave a little bit of an advert for one of our trainees is giving a talk next week. Natasha Iaboni from Chris Nichols' lab is going to be talking about her work with the DESI approach. So you got a little advert there, Natasha. Seeing any hands yet? Oh, there's Natasha. Is that a question or you're clapping?
So you have to get me a coffee.
Yeah. So would students that wanted to say move laterally out of a project in biomedical sciences into something that takes advantage of these computational approaches, what's the I guess the challenges that you think that they would face in trying to learn the essentially the computing part of it, how to program, how to speak in R or whatever language it is that they might need to use to work with data. How much of a barrier do you see for that?
It is a barrier, but it's not a big barrier. And I say that not just because I wish it is. I say that based on experience. So when I put on my second slide, I also advertised for the program we run, the Diploma and Masters in Biomedical Informatics. And that is in its 4th or 5th year now. And through that program, we take life sciences students, mostly with a bachelor's degree. We sometimes have students with nursing or medicine background, but mostly with a bachelor's in life sciences, who want to do exactly what you mentioned, Peter. And they take 4 courses in the summer. So within 3 months, less than 3 months, they take 4 very compact courses. And in fact, only one of these courses is a programming course, the first one. The rest of them are more data analytics courses or bioinformatics that take advantage of coding, but they're not coding. And again, this is the program, and is in its 5th year. So I have tens of students, we haven't gotten to 100 yet, to base this response on. They all transition wonderfully. I mean, the level of expertise, of course, depends on how much time you spend on coding, and it will increase with more years that you spend on it. But at least to get started, we have shown that it is possible, and there is a barrier, but the barrier is something that I think if you can spend the time yourself and are disciplined and have the support needed, then you can do it with online courses. But if you're not, there are lots of programs, including the one I mentioned, that provide the structure and the support for you to transition. And it's not a difficult transition. It's in fact a transition that I think gradually all of us will need. I mean, I am here, but all of the students in this field are going to need anyway, some form of programming literacy, even if it was in form of drag and drop and connect boxes, even if you didn't want to write code. So there's no running away from it.
Yeah, well, that sounds interesting, and I can imagine a scenario where you might have, say, somebody that's just finishing 3rd year of their undergraduate, or even 4th year, but so 2nd or 3rd year would be ideal to try and coax them towards a summer program like that would really give them the capability to jump into a research project. And then move into a create type opportunity after that, and that's where you might have some collaborative interaction with. I can see people in our department that would love to have students that had built that skill set and could put it to work on some of the projects that they need this capability. Because over the years, a lot of our students have had to go away to workshops to learn how to do this, and then come back and apply the skills.
Absolutely. But for the faculty members, you don't necessarily have to have students that are fully on a computational thesis to be part of CREATE. So as I mentioned, there are students in CREATE that are just housed in DBMS. I'm assuming that all your undergrad, most of your students will be between DBMS and pathology. Not everybody might be in pathology as a grad student. There might be some of you who are in DBMS as grad students. So I don't know if there is anyone in pathology as a grad student that's part of CREATE, but we certainly have several students who are in DBMS. And the way that you would be part of CREATE is that if they had a co-mentor or co-advisor from one of the CREATE PIs. So
Okay.
I have made it flexible enough that there are opportunities for people to become part of this without huge barriers.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can see possibilities for that. And I think a lot of our faculty know you, of course, and other people that are part of CREATE. And so hopefully that'll get people thinking about possibilities for these sorts of interactions.
Yeah, maybe I'll talk some money because the faculty would be interested to know how much money. So the create for faculty members pays, so students are paid, of course, with a variety of means within a graduate program. Some of it is RA that comes from the faculty members, and others are through, I don't know, QGA, scholarships, TA. Different departments have different models. So CREATE compensates the required part by the faculty member up to 11,500 per year. So it could be substantial funding for students.
Sorry, did I understand? So CREATE provides 11,500 per year?
That's right. That's right. Up to 11,500 towards the portion of the funding that is required by the supervisor. So
Okay.
it doesn't compensate for QGA or other elements, just the portion that is required to be paid by the supervisor, up to that amount.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
These training programs have certainly, for our department in the past, have led to a lot of growth in enrollment in the programs. The Terry Fox Collaborative Cancer Program grant that we had for several years was capable of providing that type of level of funding. So has a huge impact on growth of a program for sure. But I think probably for many of us, it's not just the money part of it, it's what the program has to offer. So congratulations for putting it together. And yeah, I don't think you're going to have any difficulty filling the program with students that will be keen to join it.
Casey asks if there's chance to be part of CREATE after starting a PhD. Yes, there is. We do not have any restrictions on in terms of which year you are. There are restrictions on how many years you can be in CREATE that are enforced by INSERT, but there are no restrictions as to when to start. So you could become part of CREATE. I don't know, Casey, I'm assuming you're a PhD student. So the first thing would be to have a conversation with your supervisor to see if CREATE, as you saw it, on my first slide, I put in the recording, you'll see there's a QR code, but it's medicreate.cs.queensu.ca. You'll see that you can go there and you can contact me after if you and your supervisor think that this is the right program for you, and we can talk about the details of next steps and what to do. Yeah. We in fact have 2 MD PhD students already in CREATE.
Yeah. Okay. If you have other questions, folks, you can drop them in the chat, raise your hand, or I think you can probably figure out how to get in touch with Dr. Mousavi if you have want to talk to her more about the program. So thank you again, Parvin, for agreeing to come and give this talk, and hopefully we'll see more of you in the future. Yeah, we did meet one another many years ago when you first came, but we never managed to get together and do anything together. So I think we'll have to remedy that situation.
We will remedy, and I hope to be back with more of a technical talk at some point.
Okay, that sounds good.
Your department.
I'll be in touch. I'll be in touch for that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. Thank you very much, everyone. Hi, Gabor. It's good to see you. Thanks for joining from Vienna. It must be very late. Yeah.
Right.
Thank
okay.
you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Paul.